The first time I saw her, she was crying in the frozen food aisle of a 24-hour grocery store at 2 in the morning, her shoulders shaking as she clutched a carton of ice cream she couldn't afford. I should have walked past. That's what we do now, isn't it? We see pain and we look away, protecting ourselves from the weight of someone else's suffering. But something in the way she tried to hide her face, the way her fingers trembled as she put the ice cream back on the shelf, made me stop. I didn't know then that this stranger would change everything about how I understood love, sacrifice, and what it means to be human. Her name was Rachel, though I wouldn't learn that until weeks later. She was 37 but looked older, her eyes carrying the kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from missing sleep but from missing hope. That night in the grocery store, I watched her count change in her palm, watched her face crumble. When she realized she was 40 cents, short for a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk, without thinking I stepped forward and handed the cashier a $20 bill. "I've got it," I said, my voice sounding strange even to my own ears. Rachel turned to me with startled eyes, and I saw something flicker across her face that I couldn't quite name. Pride, maybe. Shame. But mostly gratitude that she was too exhausted to hide. "I can't accept this," she whispered. But her hands were already reaching for the groceries the cashier had bagged. "You're not accepting anything," I told her. "I'm just paying it forward. Someone did it for me once." That was a lie. No one had ever done it for me. But I wanted her to feel less alone in her need, less exposed in her vulnerability. She nodded, her lips pressed tight together, and walked out into the parking lot. I thought that would be the end of it. A small moment of kindness that I could carry with me as proof that I wasn't completely self-absorbed, that I was capable of seeing beyond my own small world. But 3 weeks later, I saw her again. This time, she was sitting on a bench outside the public library, and she wasn't alone. Next to her sat a girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, with tangled brown hair and Rachel's same tired eyes. The girl was reading a picture book, her lips moving silently as she traced the words with her finger. Rachel was watching her with an expression so tender, so fierce with love, that I felt like I was intruding just by witnessing it. I almost walked past, but Rachel looked up and recognized me, and something in her face shifted. She smiled, and it transformed her completely. "Hey," she called out. "You're the grocery store guy." I walked over, suddenly self-conscious. "Yeah, how are you?" "Better," she said, and I believed her. "This is my daughter, Emma." Emma looked up from her book and gave me a shy wave before returning to her reading. "She loves to read," Rachel said softly. "Always has. Even when we were living in the car, she'd use the streetlights to read at night." The casual way she said it, living in the car, hit me like a punch to the stomach. I must have looked stricken because Rachel quickly added, "We have a place now. Just a room, really, but it's ours. We're getting back on our feet." I wanted to ask what happened, how someone ends up homeless with a child, but I knew those questions were really just ways of reassuring myself that it could never happen to me, that there was something different about her, some series of bad choices that separated her story from mine. But Rachel told me anyway over the next hour on that bench, while Emma read beside us. She told me about the husband who left when Emma was a baby, about the medical bills from her mother's cancer that drained every penny, about the job she lost when she had to choose between childcare and working late, about the apartment she couldn't afford anymore, about the months they spent bouncing between her car and homeless shelters, about the fear that never left her that someone would take Emma away. "The worst part wasn't being hungry," Rachel said quietly. "It was watching Emma be hungry and knowing I couldn't fix it. That's what breaks you, you know? Not your own suffering, but watching your child suffer and being powerless to stop it." I didn't know what to say. Nothing I could offer seemed adequate to meet the enormity of what she'd endured. So I just listened, and sometimes listening is enough. Before I left that day, I asked Rachel if I could give her my number. "In case you ever need anything," I said. She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw her weighing whether to trust this stranger who had appeared twice in her life bearing small kindnesses. Finally, she nodded and put my number in her phone. I didn't expect her to call. But 2 months later, at 11 at night, my phone rang with an unknown number. "I'm sorry to bother you," Rachel's voice came through, tight with panic. "I didn't know who else to call. Emma's sick. She has a fever and she's struggling to breathe. And I don't have a car, and the ambulance costs money. I don't have an... I'm on my way, I said, already grabbing my keys. Text me your address. I got to her place in 12 minutes. A converted motel room on the edge of town where families that couldn't afford anywhere else paid by the week. Rachel was waiting outside with Emma wrapped in a blanket, the girls breathing shallow and labored. We drove to the emergency room in silence broken only by Emma's wheezing. Rachel held her daughter and murmured reassurances, but I could see the terror in her eyes. I thought about my own childhood, about the certainty I'd always had that I would be taken care of, that someone would always catch me if I fell. Emma had no such certainty. Neither did Rachel. The hospital wanted insurance information. Rachel had none. They wanted payment up front. Rachel had nothing. I pulled out my credit card and told them to do whatever Emma needed. Rachel grabbed my arm. I can't let you do this. Yes, you can, I said. Because if the situation were reversed, you'd do it for me. I know you would. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but she nodded. Emma had pneumonia. They kept her for 3 days, and I visited every day, bringing books and puzzles and sometimes just sitting with Rachel while Emma slept. We talked about everything and nothing. I learned that Rachel had wanted to be a teacher before life got complicated, that she sang to Emma every night no matter where they were sleeping, that she'd once been just like me, someone who thought homelessness happened to other people, people who made bad choices, people who were fundamentally different. It can happen to anyone, Rachel told me on the 3rd day as we watched Emma sleep. That's what people don't understand. You're just one catastrophe away, one illness, one job loss, one divorce. The safety net isn't as strong as you think it is. When Emma was discharged, I drove them back to their motel room. As we pulled up, Rachel turned to me. I'm going to pay you back, she said. Every cent. I don't know how long it'll take, but I will. I know you will, I lied, because I knew she never could, and I didn't want her to feel obligated to try. But something strange happened over the following months. Rachel did start paying me back, $20 at a time, sometimes only $5. She'd get it to me however she could, leaving it in my mailbox, meeting me for coffee and sliding an envelope across the table. I tried to refuse, but she was adamant. You gave me something more valuable than money, she said. You gave me the chance to keep my dignity. Let me keep it by paying you back. As the months passed, I got to know Rachel and Emma better. I helped Rachel prepare for her GED exam. I took Emma to the library every Saturday. I was there when Rachel got hired at a medical office doing intake and filing. I celebrated with them when they moved into a real apartment. Tiny and in a rough neighborhood, but theirs. And somewhere along the way, this act of kindness that had started in a grocery store aisle stopped being about charity and became about family. Not the family we're born into, but the family we choose. The family we build from moments of seeing each other's humanity and deciding to honor it. 2 years after that night in the grocery store, Rachel invited me to Emma's 10th birthday party. It was just the 3 of us in their small apartment, eating cake and watching Emma open presents. But as I looked around at the life they'd built, at the stability Rachel had fought so hard to create, I felt something shift inside me. I thought I'd been helping them, but really they'd been saving me. They'd shown me that the most meaningful thing we can do in this life is to see each other truly, to recognize that every person we pass carries a story of struggle and hope, and that we have the power to make that story a little easier, a little brighter, a little more bearable. Rachel finally paid off the hospital bill last month. She insisted on taking me to dinner to celebrate, and as we sat across from each other at a diner she'd chosen because Emma loved their milkshakes, she said something I'll never forget. You know what the real gift was? It wasn't the money. It was that you saw me. When I'd become invisible to everyone else. When I felt like I'd disappeared, you saw me. You saw that I was a person trying her best, a mother who loved her daughter, someone worthy of kindness. That's what saved us, being seen. I think about that often now, about how many people we pass without really seeing, about how many moments we miss to connect, to help, to remind someone that they matter. Rachel and Emma taught me that kindness isn't just about grand gestures or life-changing interventions. Sometimes it's about the small choice to stop, to notice, to care. Sometimes it's about recognizing that we're all just trying our best to survive, and that none of us can do it alone. Her name was Rachel, and she was crying in the frozen food aisle. I could have walked past. Instead, I stopped. And that simple choice? That small moment of seeing another person's pain and deciding it mattered changed everything. It changed her life. It changed Emma's life. But most of all, it changed mine. Because in helping them find their way home, I finally found my own.